for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Mr. Knight, please take roll and establish quorum.
Thank you, President Kang. We have President Kang, Vice President Chavez, President Pro Tem Grant, Commissioner Mitchell, and Commissioner Cardenas present. MTJ Knight with the Board of Public Works. We're joined this morning by City Attorney Representative Virginia Choi. And we have no neighborhood council commentary and no public commentary for the special agenda item.
All right. Although we are reopening general public comment, but since there are no commenters, we will close general public comment. And then I believe we'll also close multiple items since there are no commenters for that as well. And we will move directly into our agenda items. Item number 1, TOS number 101, the WSP USA in Council District 14.
Good morning, Nadir Shah, Bureau of Engineering, Bridge Improvement Division. This report requests authorizing the city engineer to issue task order solicitation number 1 to WSP USA Inc. to provide engineering design services for Huntington Drive Multimodal Transportation Improvement Project with the task budget of about $10.5 million, including contingency. This project will upgrade 4.1 mile Huntington Drive corridor between Valley Boulevard in downtown and Candle Avenue. Key features include 8.4 miles of protected bicycle facilities, 2.9 miles of bus priority lane, 3 miles of new sidewalk, ADA curb ramps, enhanced lighting and crossing, landscape medians, and on-street parking. The design completion is expected by December 2027 and construction completion by September 2031. The estimated construction cost for this project is $150 million. WSP was the sole respondent from the city's on-call consultant list and will deliver 65% design plans, environmental documentation, and grant support within budget. On October 3rd, 2025, U.S. Department of Transportation issued interim final rule for the Federal Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program that temporarily suspended pending recertification. The city will administer this contract in line with federal guidance, and DBE requirements will not be enforced during the suspension. This task advances a key corridor a project that enhances mobility and safety. I am ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Vice President Chavez.
Just wanted to clarify that, so I understand the project is scheduled to be complete in 2031, but this task, how long do you expect this task to be completed?
So this task is for 65% design. We distributed the task for 100% design, and the sole consultant submitted $17 million, which was way above our budget. We negotiated down to 14.7 million, which we think still ahead of available budget. So we negotiated again and agreed upon about 9.5 million and 1 million for contingency. So that to deliver 65%. But the December 2027, that is for 100% design. So we intend to come back to the board as soon as we find additional funds to take 65% to 100%. We're talking about 4.1 mile of improvements. So that's why it's a fairly fairly long time for construction between 2027 and September 2031 to comply with all the environmental requirements, have minimal impact on the community, and $150 million worth of upgrades, 8.4 miles of, the bicycle. So it's a huge project. But 65% is to ensure that whatever funding we have, we can do it between now as you approve it and the December 2027. But 2027, we hope to have 100%. So we come back again with additional funding available and request to increase our scope of work for the task.
Okay, so you hope to, so you're expecting to come back in 2027 with additional identified funds?
Yeah, design should be complete 2027, and then 6 months for bid and award. So this project should go for construction sometime in 2028. So 6 months bid and award period. So December 2027, our design is expected to complete, and then in 6 months time we will have bid and award. So 2028, 2029, yeah. So it's slightly long time for the construction, but that including all the contingencies and available funding.
Okay, so when do you expect to issue the notice to proceed, or has that already been issued?
And another toss, yes, because this is only for 65% design. So 100% would be another scope. That could be issued again, because the current toss is only because we don't have enough funding. So we have to go back to all the consultants and submit another toss to complete, to take 65% design to 100% design.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your answer. When, is there a time certain when you expect to issue the notice to proceed for this, for the work, or do you have to wait until you have all the design? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, for bid and award, yes, we should have 100% design.
Okay.
We can technically go even with 65% design. That would be a design build project, but our experience is we will be pushing the risk of unknown design element to the contractor, and then the bid could be higher. So ideally, we would like to have 100% design going to the bid and award. We can go in any 30% design, but then the rest of the design contractor has to complete with additional cost as well as additional risk associated with it. So if in the history of our bid and award projects, if we have 100% design and then we go to bid and award, that gives a better bid than going with the only 65%. So we intend to get more funding and then have another toss to complete the design to 100%, but not to delay the project and utilize existing fund. That's why we negotiated with WSP to agree on deliver 65% of design with $9.5 million. So we brought 17 million, which they were expecting, down to 9.5 million and 1 million for contingency. So city do not have 17 million at the moment, but we do have enough fund to do 65% design. So this authorization is up to 65% of design only. So for 100%, we have to come back again with additional request.
I understand. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
All right, Commissioner Mitchell.
If I understand, I wrote down 45%. This $10 million represents 55% of the total design, or 45%?
Okay. Can you repeat the question?
You're asking for 10.5 million. Is that 45 or 55% of the expected design cost?
9.5 million is for 65%.
65?
Yes.
And then you're going to come back next year
So
sometime?
as soon as we have, uh, so the goal is when we get close to 65% and we should have funding, and we issue another toss to have all the consultant opportunity. They can see 65% design, and they can provide us their proposal that how much cost it will take from 65 to, because whatever this cost proposal was submitted, we negotiated down from 17 million to 9.5 million. In my opinion, when we come to the board and we request authority, board authorizes us up to 2.5 million for 65%. So from 65 and onward, will need to come back to the board with a new toss requesting to complete 100% design.
Okay, so
Yeah,
in this
that
current,
time I don't know what the proposal.
in this current fiscal year, there's 10.5 million available. Is that correct? 9.5 plus $1 million contingency for design.
1 million.
65, 65, 65% design, correct?
Yes.
So then, once fiscal year, and I assume you're going to try to put something in next year's fiscal year budget for the balance, the 35%, correct?
So 35% would be left.
And then you'll have to come back to the board
Yes.
to issue a toss for the 35%.
Yeah, we call it to complete 100% design. Yes, that would be another toss. It would be distributed to all the consultants, and the goal is as soon as we have funding and we are closer to our 65% design, we come back to the board and get
And that's why the design expectation is, but you'll have the design by December 2027,
100%. Yes.
and then we'll go out again for the actual construction. And with the expectation that'll be done by about September 30, 31, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cardenas.
Okay, just trying to wrap my head around this. So at this point, what % of design do you have on this project?
So we are initiating the design. So
So right now, you just have a concept of what you want to do for these, how many, is it 10 mile, how many miles was it?
4.1 miles.
4.5 miles. So the reason why I was asking how much, what design do you have right now is what basis did you use to come up with a $150 million estimate if there's no design right now? How did we come up with that number? Is it based on past projects and different, how many streets, how many cutouts, how did you come up with that number?
Yeah, so we will call it a class O, or opinion of cost. So that is a preliminary cost which we would use on any project to open a work order. That does include experience on previous projects, and it's a very high number, of course. So at the beginning of the project, based on project manager's experience, we establish a class O estimate. When we have a 30% design, we would have a class C estimate, which would, based on much more detailed 30% actual numbers. And then it is refined to a class B estimate at 50% design, and another class A estimate at 90% design. So it progresses. So it will start with 150 million as the more detail is known. But this is based on opinion. It's a very high level.
Correct.
I could be really wrong. I can come and ask for 200 million or 100 million. But it is on similar project based on experience.
Because right now, we can lay out the 4.1 miles and we can see what's existing and what types of improvements we want to make on, you can block it out block by block and then figure it out what you want to do. So right now we have an idea or a concept of what we want to do at this point. So, and say, we're the bid was for 10.5 million, including contingency, to go ahead and get us to 65, for the design to be 65% complete. That's the proposal, correct? So what happens if after that, you go ahead and after this time period and the design is, in your opinion, only 50% complete? You have to wait for them to get to the 65? Or what if they turn it in and it's 80% complete? They screwed up and went too high. So how can we say, okay, bring, when you get to 65%, stop, so we can go ahead and get you to finish the rest of the 35% design?
Yeah, so
Conceptually, I'm just trying to figure, how do you have people stop at that imaginary point?
Yeah, so we have a criteria what will define 65% in our task and in our negotiation. But to give you an idea, we want to we want to go to a building and safety for any of our projects. We will usually go with 65 or 70% design. We will not go at 90 or 50 or 30, because then it would be too early. So that, like, two-thirds of a journey is a good point to go to any regulatory agency to evaluate our design. That the PM job is, they have to work it where it is. Now, all the requirements of regulatory agencies, when they are incorporated and everybody is happy, that we are probably close to 90%. So we will take this project to 65%, which means it's ready to go for the review of the approval agencies. And at 90%, everybody has reviewed it except the city engineer, and there is a final QA/QC. So each of these stages, 30%, 50, or 65, there's a QA/QC plan and checklist. They are in place to review where the project is. But generally, if you want to take your project and present it to building and safety or any regulatory agencies, uh, your design should be at 65% around.
Understood.
So that would be the criteria. I know it's subjective. Your 65% may be different than mine, but generally accepted. When we see the details are there in plans and specifications, which are acceptable and understandable by the regulatory agencies. So
I,
it's yeah.
I get that, but the reality is we're not building something that hasn't been created before. So once you design a bike path, you know what that's going to look like. Once you do the cutouts for the street corners, the ADA improvements on the sidewalks and such. We build sidewalks for a living here in the city. So it's interesting that if you design it, I would think it is going to be pretty dang close to what you need,
Sure.
assuming, because we've done this before. So anyway, we can talk for days about this. Anyway,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, Commissioner Mitchell.
If you believe the cost is actually 13.5, why don't you let it for 13.5, identify where the money's coming from in this current fiscal year? Why are we coming back again for 65 plus 35%?
So the whole corridor, it's economies of scale. So one way to handle is you have a 4.1-mile corridor. So you would be doing environmental studies. You would be doing all those kind of investigation. So if we don't, if we like you have with the completing the scope within the available budget. So there are two options: whether we do 65% or we do part of a project. It will still be a part of a project.
It doesn't make sense to do it that way. Why would you have a contractor design 65% of the project? Is that because you don't have funding available for 100%?
So even for the projects which are designed 100%, the milestones are usually not giving everything on 100%. The milestones could be 30%, 50% design, 65% design. And that is one way where the city ensures QAQC. That's where we ensure that the work completed, so that it's not at.
Mr. Shaw, can we have a different member of your team address that question?
You have, yeah, I want to answer one part of that question. Okay, so Georg, if you could answer.
I'm not that tall. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, commissioners. Georg Mukherjee, I'm the project manager on the project. And I just want to answer that question specifically. We have, this project is grant funded by the SR 710 state SDBG funds. And so they cut back the usage timeline of this a bit. So we have to expend the funds we have by the end of, or appropriate the funds we have for fiscal 25-26. And so that's one of the reasons we're going in now instead of waiting for the remainder of the funds. But also we're in process of getting the remainder of roughly $4 million. We applied for the Metro Call for projects, and also we're in talks with our partner agencies, Metro specifically, for making up the $4 million gap in funding.
So has the contractor made, you have an estimate. You already know what it costs, right?
The cost for the 100%
For everything, for everything, right?
For the design.
The
phase, yes, we know
13.5 or whatever
we
it is?
negotiated all the costs for 100% design with the
But why don't you just do what you would just propose, what I suggested, which is we're allocating X number of dollars for this. You give it to the same contractor. It doesn't make sense to have one contractor do a toss for 65%, and you're coming back, you're only looking at funding, right? Right? We're only identifying the source of the remaining funds to complete the entire design, right?
right.
Okay, so why don't we say this is what we need, and we've identified this in this current fiscal year, this is the source of the funds, and then in the next fiscal year, we'll have that contract, we anticipate having that contractor, that design contractor, finish the design with the funds that will be available starting 26, 27.
That's actually exactly what we're going to be doing. In the board report, we mentioned we're going to come, when we have the funds, we're going to come back to the board to ask to increase the, we have to increase the value of the toss.
Why don't we do it this way? Why don't you get a number from the contractor that you've chosen for the toss for the entire project? Come back to us, tell us this is what it costs. We have funding for this current fiscal year through this source. And we will have, we anticipate funding the balance, the 35% balance in the next fiscal year, 26, 27.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, we do have all those numbers.
All right, so can we continue this? And then we come up with the whole package, and then we can look at the whole package as opposed to piecemealing? It doesn't make sense for you to come back to the board and ask us for the other 35%, if you know what the number is now.
I see.
If I may answer, so the whole issue is right now we don't have 17 million what was proposed. So
You anticipate getting it, don't you?
we anticipate that is it's a procedural thing. So for the for the our accounting to pay, I can show them I have only 10.5 million at this time. Would the consultant would be paid? So if I say this will cost 17 million, and even if the board authorizes us to spend 17 million, we don't have 17 million.
This happens, but this happens all the time with regard to some projects.
So we are still coming back to the board. It is just like we have 10.5 million with us available, and we can start the work. And to get to the 17 million, we don't have 17 million at the moment.
But I'm confused. You need 13 million or 17 million?
Yeah, 17 million was the proposal for 100% design.
Okay.
But the city, we don't have 17 million, so we negotiated, and the proposal, they said we can do it for 14.7 million. now 14.7 million. City state
14.7 million to get to 100%, correct?
14. If we had 14.7, we would have come and said approve it for 100.
So the 17 million doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Because you keep on bringing it up and that's confusing.
Yeah.
Okay.
14.7. So it is about $4 million. I would say $4 million extra. If we had it, we would have come to the board with the request 100% designed by WSP. So we
Mr.
don't
Shah,
have-
sorry to cut you off. Let me clarify, because I know this is a time-sensitive project, and I think it's crystal clear in the board report. So it is a $9.5 million currently what you're asking, with the $1 million contingency for 10.5, and that is a 65% of the project design that you're asking for. And colleagues, we have done this before where we piecemeal it, because if the Bureau doesn't have the 100% of the funding, they are on the hook to receiving the necessary amount. We just did that for the Olympic Gateway because we want to get the project started. Otherwise, costs go up, delays. So I understand some of your concerns, and I think if the BOE can circle back with the commission to provide separate briefings about some of the concerns raised. And I think there will be other times that are coming up to further dive into it. So I do want to kind of escalate this item for our consideration, given that it's been a long time since this is coming. If you see the initial signatures from Councilmember Huizar. Vice President Chavez.
Thank you, yes, and I support that. I don't want to delay this. I understand that every week that this gets delayed, we further jeopardize grant dollars on this project. So I am supportive of moving forward, but I do think it would be appreciated to get additional information on this project as it moves forward.
Mr. Shah, if you don't mind having you and your colleagues circle back with the commission with separate briefings, even though if the item does pass or whatever it may be, I think that would be very helpful for this board.
Sure, we'll do that.
And just one
Commissioner Cardenas.
and got some clarification on this, because originally when you stated it, it sounded like you were going to go back out to bid to get the 35% completed, but now that it's going to stay with the same consultant, that confusion is no longer there. So I was confused as well, because I thought it sounded like, okay, consultant A is going to do up to 65, then we're going to go out to bid and see which one wins, and consultant B is going to send in potentially and finish it. But that's not the case. It's going to be one consultant all the way through.
Sure.
Correct?
It will be.
Correct?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that's the clarification.
Okay, all right. And seeing no other discussions, I would like to wrap on this. Is there a first and a second on this?
So moved.
Second.
So
Commissioner, yes.
the motion, I hear the discussion, following the discussion, the motion on the table is is a first by President Kang and a second by VP Chavez. We'll go ahead and take a vote on this motion, and then we can proceed after that. So we'll start with the
And
vote.
Commissioner Mitchell, I do understand your concerns. My only concern is this is a very time-limited grant funding that will expire, so that is my only concern about the continuance. But if BOA, if you could circle back, I'm comfortable with moving forward, and so we'll see with the vote. So we have first from President Pro Tem Grant, and then second from Commissioner Cardenas.
Sure.
Okay. Approve, yes.
Correct.
Correct. The motion on the table is to approve and adopt item 1 and move it forward forthwith. And so we have a first by Pro Tem Grant and a second by Commissioner Cardenas. We'll go ahead and take a roll call vote, starting with you, President Kang,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell, and Commissioner Cardenas.
All right.
4 ayes and 1 no, and the item is adopted and will move forward forthwith.
All right, thank you very much. But please circle back with us.
Sure, we will do that.
or thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward, Mr. Huang, thank you for being here. Let's take number 2 and 3 together for the street closures.
All right. Good morning, commissioners, or almost good afternoon. My name is George Huang. I'm from the Bureau of Engineering. And the first item we have before the board is the Active Transportation Program, ATP Cycle 3, Downtown Los Angeles Art District Pedestrian and Cyclist Safety Project. This project is in construction right now. The board has awarded the construction contract back in September 14th, 2022. Currently, to Access Pacific Inc., which is our contractor. And we're at a point where we're focusing on this street on Santa Fe, and we're requesting the board for full closure. So I'm going to turn this over to our project manager, who's going to give a bit of a history about the project, and then the full street closure, what it entails, and why we're requesting the board for it, and also the outreach efforts that we have done.
Good morning, President King, Vice President Chavez, President Pro Tempore Grant, and Board of Public Works Commissioners. My name is Joe Lin, and I'm with the Bureau of Engineering, Street Improvement Division. I'm the project manager of the Active Transportation Program Cycle 3, Downtown Los Angeles Arts District Pedestrian and Cyclist Safety Project. I'm here today to request temporary street closure of Santa Fe Avenue from Palmetto Street to Mateo Street, starting November 6 to December 3, to accommodate construction activities. To give you the background information of the project is located in Council District 14 in the Arts District of downtown Los Angeles. The project will improve pedestrian and bicycle facilities along Santa Fe Avenue, Mateo Street, Traction Avenue, 4th Street, and connections to the 6th Street Viaduct and rail and bus transits. Project elements include bike lanes, bike routes, new widened sidewalks with ADA curb ramps and curb extensions, installing high visibility crosswalks, traffic control intersections and wayfinding signage, new pedestrian lightings, and new shade trees. The project is currently in construction with anticipated completion in March of 2026. Currently, we're at the project segment on Santa Fe Avenue between Mateo Street and Palmetto Street. We will be widening the sidewalk by installing curb extensions, along with the reconstruction of curb and gutter and a portion of the street. This requires us to temporarily close off Santa Fe Avenue to allow the construction operations to proceed safely. The existing Santa Fe Avenue is a two-way street with one lane in each direction, and our alternative to full street closure was a 9 feet wide lane of 800 feet stretch in one direction at a time during the construction. This does not meet LADOT's minimum lane width standard. Therefore, full closure was determined to be the most feasible and safest approach. It will also help reduce the overall construction duration and minimize the impact on the surrounding community. We anticipate the closure to be between November 6 and December 3 of 2025, and we have Council District 14 concurrence on the street closure, and we have LADOT approval on our traffic control plan for the street closure. The local access to the businesses and the buildings will be made available throughout the closure period. The community and the stakeholders have been informed of the upcoming closure, and we also have distributed the advanced construction notice to the surrounding community and provide them with a dedicated phone line and an email address for any questions and concerns regarding the street closure. There will be no change to the construction cost, which has been approved by the board and the city council. This concludes my report, and I'll be here happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, Commissioner Cardenas.
Yes, thank you. Being that today is November 5th, we're looking at closing this tomorrow. Has announcements been going out to the local community there to know that the street's going to be closed for over a month?
Yes. So the date that included in the reports, November 6th to December 3rd, that has been that was our initial anticipated closure date, but we have schedule changed to November 11. It been moved to a week, so that has been communicated to the community through the construction notices. We have already distributed those by hand to the community with the revised dates.
Are there any traffic, like the traffic signs, letting them know that starting on this, from this date to this date, you know,
Yes, that will be part of the traffic control
Yeah.
setup. Yes,
I mean, is it up now, is my question.
it's not been up yet, but after
So-
this,
So hopefully tomorrow it'll start going up.
correct.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions related to this? Okay. Ms. Wong, you want to continue with number 3 as well?
Yes, thank you. For the next item is also a temporary a roadway closure along Slater Avenue between 110th and 111th Street. And then this is for the BOE project, Slater Avenue Rail Grade Crossing Improvement Project. So this project, we're providing street and pedestrian crossing across a Union Pacific Railroad track. This is also in construction, which was the construction contract was awarded on December 16, 2024 by the board. And the construction contractor is also Access Pacific. Also, again, I'll hand it over to our project manager to give details about the full closure and the outreach information. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Lisa Tamiz from the Bureau of Engineering, and I am the project manager of the Slater Avenue Rail Grade Crossing Improvement Project. The scope of work for this project is to install pedestrian and vehicular safety improvements at the Union Pacific Railroad crossing at Slater Avenue. This will include detectable warning tiles and pedestrian barriers on the sidewalk approach, a train detection system, a flashing light signal assembly with an automatic gate, additional street lighting, and reconstruction of concrete sidewalk and curb ramps to current accessibility standards. This item before the board today is to approve a temporary full street closure along Slater Avenue between East 110th Street and East 111th Street from Friday, November 7th through Monday, November 10th. The temporary full street closure is needed to facilitate construction activities involving the Union Pacific Railroad and the city's contractor, Access Pacific, Inc. At the start of the closure, the Union Pacific Railroad will begin removing and reconstructing the precast concrete panels along the railroad tracks. Upon completion, BOE's contractor, Access Pacific, Inc., will construct the new pedestrian sidewalk and street pavement on both approach sides of the railroad crossing. The construction sequence and time of work were coordinated and agreed to at a field readiness meeting held yesterday, November 4th. Lastly, BOE prepared a construction notice in both English and Spanish that include all planned detour routes to keep the community informed of the upcoming street closure. These notices have been distributed by BOE's contractor to the residents in the vicinity of the impacted construction area. The Office of Council District Number 15 was notified by email and provided their support of the proposed full street closures. CD15 also posted and distributed the construction notice in their community newsletter. BOE recommends the board to adopt the temporary full street closure at Slater Avenue for the requested dates and reasons outlined in this report. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll take number 2 and 3 together. Is there a first and a second?
So moved.
Second.
First by Commissioner Cardenas, seconded by Commissioners Mitchell and Vice President Chavez.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on approval of items 2 and 3, starting with you, President Kang,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell, and Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and items 2 and 3 are adopted and will move forward forthwith.
Thank you very much. Moving forward to the last item on our special agenda, number 4, for request for qualification RFQ, Rapid Pedestrian Facility Repair Program Contract Serial Number 1.
Hi, good morning. My My name is David Ventura. I'm with the Bureau of Engineering. Good morning, President Kang, Commissioners. I'm here to present for the Rapid Pedestrian Facility Repair Program. Just a brief introduction or context for the program. The Sidewalk Repair Program was established by City Council in February of 2015. We currently have a variety of different delivery methods for construction. Those include our Streets LA work, small contractor community list, and through regular large sidewalk packages and CTIP projects that we go through the board regularly. This RFQ is to establish a new program, a pilot program to have urgent necessity work for sidewalk repair. So some general contract information. This contract will be a fixed unit price contract for urgent repair and rehabilitation of pedestrian facilities. The way this works is the BOE is requesting qualifications for establishing the contract. The prospective contractor will submit a statement of qualifications that include a schedule of work and prices and for 113 predetermined bid items for unit costs. We will evaluate that SOQ and jointly with BCA, and we will determine the list of contractors to be included in this list. Some unique elements for this is that we are requesting to redeclare the SRP access requests and city facility projects as a matter of urgent necessity, and also extending that to adding our general program access improvements. Some other unique elements here are that there will be some requests for 3D design from the contractors. That's usually as a bid item and be determined by the engineer's discretion. And some construction orders will specifically request this 3D design or 2D design, and some others will be done by exhibit. So moving on, there was supposed to be a presentation that wasn't delivered, so there's a couple of examples of kind of the range of work that we're asking for, which is around $300,000 for a construction order. It's roughly about a city block to 2 city blocks of work for that scope. The presentation had some examples of that scope from previous projects that we have done. Some general contract information is the contract ceiling is $30 million. The duration is for 3 years. There's 112 bid items that the contractors will bid on and submit their SOQ. And we're asking for a construction order authority of $300,000. Another aspect of the contract is the BIP. For this type of contract, the BIP is typically waived. And that's the recommendation that in concurrence with BCA and the CAO, we received a waiver for the BIP on these contracts. The reasons being that the contractors don't know how much work they're going to get assigned when they join, so they can't pledge anything because they don't know how much subcontracting work will be given to them per the construction order. So the way these work is we would take access requests in this case, design them and issue them to contractors through construction orders. The construction order would have an exhibit design as well as a quantity takeoff that has their bid items listed according to the type of work that we're asking for and their unit costs for those items. And in the sidewalk program, transparency is very important to us. We also have developed a mapping system that's available to the public that shows our locations of work for these sites throughout the year, which can be viewed by anyone. And we will give a presentation on the next board meeting, I believe on November 14th, as the usage and how much information you can retrieve off of that website. Along with that, the theme of transparency, we're also proposing to report quarterly to the board with the progress of the program. This is very similar in these types of contracts with the Bureau of Engineering. It's very similar to the sewers contract, which they had a quarterly report, which we would come back and give updates on how many projects were issued, a summary of how many projects each contractor has, how many construction orders have been issued, how many construction orders have been completed, the dollar value of those construction orders, any executed change orders, the remaining cost ceiling up to that point, and the amount expended to that date. So something that came up on this contract as well was a protest by SEIU. So there's a timeline that we discussed with them, the contract, and explained that the reasoning for the contract was due to the loss of BSS crews that we normally get that were reallocated in this year's budget. So to supplement that, that is part of the reason for this contract. Just there's a timeline for the information that we shared with SEIU. It started back in March. It ended pretty much in October 23rd. We met with them on April 1st, and they followed up with some questions on April 7th. We discussed that with our BOE's risk management and gave them the information that they were asking for and referred them to other agencies that for information that we were not the custodian of. So to this point, we haven't heard back on any additional questions, but they did mention they will pursue with the next step on their MOU. So concluding this, saying this supplements the BSS loss of production that we are encountering. This also helps us be more efficient in issuing certain projects. We do plan to continue on with the other methods that we do that come to the board, like the CIP projects and design build and design bid projects. But this process would expedite our kind of response time in getting these projects out. A typical project right now when we go through typical bid and award is about 14 to 16 months from design or pre-design to actual NTP date. With this program, after we get the approvals, it would be about 3 to 4 months of time to get the project out to the contractor to be constructed. So with the upcoming influx of work from LA28 and other kind of pressures on the program, this would be a very helpful tool to be efficient, transparent, and be able to get more work out. So I think that concludes the presentation. I'm here for any additional questions.
Thank you very much. President Pro Tem Grant.
Thank you, David, for all your work around this area. As you've heard in public comment, mic's not on. It's still of great concern. I'm glad you raised the issue of, and that you're aware of the union's objection to this. And are you also aware that they've demanded arbitration regarding this issue?
Yes, in the sense that they asked for the next step. I wasn't aware of the arbitration.
Yeah, on November 3rd, they sent a letter to Interim City Engineer Chief Alfred Mata demanding arbitration. And they also requested that this be pulled from the agenda today. Was anyone informed you of that?
No, it's not. I've not heard of that.
And then if the arbitrator decides that, in fact, this work should have been done by city employees, after work has been done, if this TOS is approved, the city then will be liable to make those employees whole in addition to the work that's already been paid.
Correct. Just a note on that, this is only to advertise. There wouldn't be any actual issuance.
Okay, but we're starting the ball
right,
process.
yeah, until we come back to get the approval of the contractors to be on the list.
And that at least when I was originally briefed on this earlier in the summer, the analogy was made that this is an emergency situation similar to that LA Sanitation has when a sewage line breaks. Is that still the perspective regarding this TOS?
So the urgent necessity was declared by council on February 2nd for access requests, which still stands.
So, I mean, I'm just unclear what species of trees operates or extends its roots in such a immediate fashion that all of a sudden it becomes an emergency that the sidewalk has become broken.
Right, and we're not saying it's an emergency. Urgent necessity is declared by the council, which has the authority to declare that.
This was the urgent necessity in 2015?
Correct.
And so 8 years later, we're taking action on what was an urgent necessity a number of years prior? 10 years. So 10 years later, we're coming to the board saying, oh yeah, this urgent necessity that we figured out 10 years ago, it's now important enough for us to make a special TOS?
Right.
Yeah, thank you very much for bringing that up. The sidewalk repair program, came into existence and officially started the compliance period in 2017, although we had some pre-settlement work. And then, as indicated by
That was
David,
before the settlement agreement in Williston 17, correct?
oh, excuse me?
2017 was before the actual settlement of the Willis agreement?
No, the settlement period and the settlement went into effect in August of 2016, and the 30-year compliance period outlined in the settlement started on July 1st of 2017.
Okay.
So that's related to our annual obligation to deliver projects. So our program has developed and worked continually to deliver better. When the council did declare urgent necessity for the sidewalk repair program, they said for the sidewalk repair program, as we all know and as defined in the city, in the settlement, and in the municipal code, is a 30-year program. So that was adopted, and at first we went and we used that authority, which specifically said in the approval that it was for expediting projects to use alternative contract delivery methods such as BOE's emergency list. So first we did, when we obtained that authorization, we went and bid projects off of our emergency list, our available list, our structural geotech list. And we found, because those firms didn't specialize in sidewalks, they were subcontracting the work out to, sidewalk firms. It wasn't their expertise. And it was, we were seeing higher costs and longer times due to construction delays, due to change orders, due to high bids, because this wasn't the contractor's specialty, and really why they got on, the geotech list to support sidewalk projects. So we really saw a necessity, if we wanted to take full advantage of this urgent necessity declaration, to come up with a list like this one, this job order list, which will support us in delivering projects faster. And currently,
I mean, it's just 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years later, you decide to change the configuration because the original one didn't work, which curiously is after the council, in its wisdom, decided to put two crews back to street services to carry out this work. I have difficulty, especially since the union is complaining about it and demanding arbitration, that in fact, my sense is until this matter is resolved between the city and the collective bargaining agreement, that it would be inappropriate for us to take action on this, given we have no idea what the arbitrator's ruling is going to be about what's at fault and who is to be compensated and how. And the last thing the city needs to do is make double payment for a sidewalk repair.
Yeah, I think until, as mentioned, this is a first step.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I realize I'm interrupting. What is lost since we've waited this long to bring this task forward, for us to wait until the arbitrator's decision about this work? What is lost if we continue this matter until we have a resolution from the arbitrator regarding this work?
Time in prioritizing and delivering our LE28 games projects. As David mentioned, it's the difference between a matter of months and over a year for us to go from having work identified as priority by the council, our LE28 games partners, and package and get that out to the street. So at this point, where we're less than 3 years down, the difference between 3 months time and 16 months time, and we want to be able to use the funding we receive now, that we receive over the next 3 years, including the funding this fiscal year, get that project down on the streets, get our work done on the LA28 Games access, get our curb ramps done before other agencies, LADOT, come in with their projects, also to help again with congestion. Since we are more nimble, we're readily available to start mobilizing, remove the barriers as reported by individuals with mobility disabilities. So yeah, and costs. Of course, there's costs associated with the processing to bring the packages to board, and as well as that there's a time cost with that. So yeah, that's I would say the why now. And speaking to the protest, you know, we have handled it with urgency. We received the protests and we were very responsive. In March, we provided the documentation. In May and June, in detail, we went into our program records, provided all the records that we were custodians of and referred them to the proper offices. And we've received no response, we've received no questions. And now that, you know, we're looking to move this process forward, the board or the SEIU says they want to escalate, but they've provided us with no additional documentation other than their initial complaints or concerns to show where the city has reduced the workforce and reassigned that work to contractors. So, you know, it isn't on our part that I think that issue is not resolved. And what we're doing now is going forward with just the RFQ. We'll receive the responses, we'll have to evaluate them and come back with the board with the authority to issue the contract. So this wouldn't give BOE any authority to issue $1 to any contractor. We would have to come back to the board. And we'll continue to, as we have, and we have the timeline to reflect it, work as expeditiously as possible to address these concerns by SEIU.
I mean, and I don't want to get into the argument between the union regarding the collective bargaining agreement and the Bureau of Engineering, but out of fairness to them, this demand wasn't raised until it was agendized. And so it wasn't ripe for them to make a grievance and a demand for arbitration until, in fact, it was put on our agenda. Just the fact that you're contemplating enough is not enough for a party to demand arbitration. And when you, in fact, move from contemplation of this toss to agendizing it to action, that is when it becomes, if you will, ripe, you know, for it to make the demand for grievance and therefore arbitration.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if the city attorney, in my understanding, until we issue that contract, you know, we aren't accruing sort of, you know, liability or, you know, in current violating the Article 210. So.
Julia, oh.
Yeah.
I am not familiar with what this current factual situation is, but with respect to RFQs and competitive processes generally, issuing an RFQ or an RFP does not necessarily mean that there is an obligation to contract. In fact, the city retains the right to, you know, take down the RFQ, not go forward with it, change terms per addenda, negotiate, and ultimately can decide not to award a contract. So it's not any kind of binding commitment that an RFQ or RFP document necessarily makes.
Not to say that the grievance is unfounded. Which is not to say that the grievance is unfounded.
I am not familiar with what the grievance is or what
yes,
exactly.
You can't say that it is or not.
I would need to evaluate what this is, but I have no authority or knowledge to speak on that topic.
Commissioner Cardenas?
Well, and so I understand this properly, nothing stops us from going out to get an RFQ at this point. All we're getting is requests for, and between the time that if and when they do come back for issuing contracts, that this arbitration is going parallel with this, and when and if it comes back to this body, we can say based on the arbitration, we're going to pivot and change our position as to if we're going to approve these contracts or not. I mean, that these two things can go on at the same time is what I'm saying. Until the contracts are issued, then we potentially have an issue with breaking the contract with the unions. Is that correct?
I'm not sure when. I mean, there's an issue of. I mean, I haven't talked to the union specific in terms of what their demands are, what the violations of, but if the RFQ goes out and contractors are approved, then I'm concerned that those contractors can say, in fact, that there's a denial of their agreement that they had with the city. So, in fact, I'm not sure. I don't see what's lost, given the fact that BOE has been doing this process all along of delaying it until we have a decision from the arbitrator regarding this whole issue.
Vice President Chavez.
Yeah, I mean, I share concerns with my colleague, Commissioner Grant. I think it is an open question as to whether staff has been working in good faith toward this goal. I mean, what is the goal here? Is the goal to explore options to bring this work in-house, or are we just providing information as it goes along and then we're, back to standard operating procedure, which is very slow also. And so I don't know. I think that we should really think about the broader question, do we as a Department of Public Works want to invest in our workforce long-term? These are questions that we as a board need to consider from a policy perspective. We do have a commitment to invest many millions of dollars every year. We're bound by that. It's a 30-year program. I think we're in year 8 or 9 of that program. So I think these are things that this board really needs to discuss at some point and give that direction to staff, because without that direction, staff are just operating in that vacuum and moving forward with their normal procedures. And so this is the inevitable result of these open questions. So I'm concerned about moving forward. I don't think that issuing an RFP shows that we're in earnest working toward some of these broader policy goals of investing in ourselves.
Final comments from Commissioner Mitchell, and I'm going to wrap discussion on this. Yes.
I was first briefed on this on June 26, 2025, which, according to the SEIU letter, was 3 days after it appeared in the clearinghouse. The rationale, not to say that we're not doing contracts already to address the settlement terms. We are. We just approved one either last month or September. We approved several shortly after we started. We have a list of contractors. They're not just all small dollar contracts, such as the dispute we had a few months ago with regard to the small $12,000, the payroll dispute, the $8,000 penalty pursuant to the Contractors Licensing Board. We have contractors that are doing the work. We have a list of design, bid, build process. Only difference at this point in time is that of the 5 BSS crews that were assigned to BOE back in 2018, as well as I did read the motion that's attached from 2015 that specifically talked about public facilities as to the urgent necessity. But you got 30 years on the settlement agreement to spend $1.3438 billion. What the settlement agreement does not talk about is production. There's a backlog, as I understand, of 4,000 access requests that have not been fulfilled, and for 7, 8 years since 2018, and probably even before then, it has been a design build process. The only difference is in this fiscal year of 25-26, 2 of the 5 BSS crews were returned for BSS 100%. And what was explained to me is that we have to replace the work by the BSS crews. My concern is we don't have to replace the work. Basically, when BOE was given this task, even if we talk about it going back to 2015, those 5 crews were to jumpstart the contract build process. And it was not always anticipated that BSS crews would be part and parcel of this project. In fact, since I came on board, I've argued that I don't understand why we can't do access related, which is not all access related, because we're also subsidizing property owners through a rebate program. If you have money, you can get your sidewalk fixed and we'll help you pay for it. which is also going toward the count per the CAO as to the city's obligation to provide and remedy the situation. So not all people are treated equal with regard to this process, but I digress a little bit. So it's not that we're not contracting and bidding and building pursuant to the obligation. As far as I know, there is a desire to do the last mile with regard to the games, but nobody's been assigned to do that work, and it's not necessarily through this particular program. What I'm also concerned about, and I've expressed my concern about this, is the lack of transparency. I was told we don't want to do design, bid, build, that takes too long, and we have to do the staff reports. What that process does do is give transparency. It provides equity. It gives us as a board the opportunity to look and see where the work is being done. And I've already talked about the slight inequity with regard to the rebate program being counted as part of this obligation, but money has been expended, that's fine. I've asked about, we talk about urgent necessity. It's not urgent necessity. We have 30 years to build on this program. I've asked, and from time to time, I'm also sitting on the Executive Steering Committee for the Sidewalk Repair Program, which is changing names to Pedestrian Accessibility Settlement, for when the access request went in and when we got built. Most of this 7, 8 years, and it got built this year. I've asked, even with regard to our bid contracts, that we be informed when those packages come to us, that we know when the request was made. Because it's not about urgent necessity, it's not about an emergency. We can try to say this is like a sewer spill or leak, which is a matter of life and death, but unfortunately, and I'd like to be able to do this much faster, which is why I had suggested at some point in time that we do the access request report program the way we've always done it, and then also provide funding so that the BSS could actually, we can do walk and chew gum at the same time, so we could actually address some of those concerns as well on both sides. So the issue of urgent necessity doesn't really exist. The issue of an emergency doesn't really exist, because under this program, there's 30 years to actually do something about it. The rationale that was given initially when I was briefed on the 26th of June, and I've been briefed twice since then, September and also 21st of October, and I've actually participated in the Executive Steering Committee meetings on a monthly basis, is that we need to replace those BSS crews, and that's not really necessary, because push come to shove, what happens when we do this design build is we lose transparency, we lose oversight, we lose the ability to figure out whether we're doing work equitably all across the city as opposed to certain areas. And so for those reasons, and I've tried to express it the best way I know how, I'm not, if we take a vote today, I'm not inclined to approve even an RFP, which is unnecessary, because, yeah, we don't have to, but the implication is we're not doing the work, and we are actually doing the work. All we need to do is increase those packages so that we can actually get the work out. The settlement agreement does not require, there's no projection requirement. It's a bad agreement. It does not say you shall build 400 curb ramps and 400 sidewalk repairs. It talks about spending money. And that's not a good measure in terms of a settlement to really make a substantial improvement given the nature and immense quantity of broken, dangerous sidewalks that we have in this city. We pay one way or other. Mostly right now, we're paying in liability, and I don't see that actually decreasing if we keep the approach that we have. So either we fund on both ends or we fund not at all. But we have to fund under these circumstances. I don't think that I was also told we're going to be giving up a change order authority up to $300,000. I don't see any incentive for the board to basically give up its change order authority. When we do that, we give up oversight. And it's blindly, I've never had a situation, or, and I've done this a while, but I've never had a situation when we're going to do design build as to multiple locations all across the city and we don't know where those are. We're doing a progressive design build with regard to the convention center. That's one location. We know where the work is being done. But if we start talking about design build as sidewalk repairs throughout the city, if that includes, it doesn't matter whether it includes sidewalk, just sidewalk repair or curb ramps or whatever else, we will not have the transparency to know where that's taking place. We will not be able to judge the equitability of who gets what, where in this city of 470 square miles.
Commissioner Mitchell, I hate to cut you off, but I don't believe we have the votes to move this forward today. So I'm going to propose that we continue to a date uncertain, and also given the fact that SEIU, Julian and David, I'm not sure if you saw it, but they're asking to sit down with the city to kind of talk about this. So I think it's fair for us to provide that opportunity. I know the time, and I know the mayor wants us to move on a quicker solution for our sidewalks. So I do want to ask our bureau to please sit down with SEIU, similar to what President Pro Tem Grant has mentioned. So we will continue this to a date uncertain.
Yeah, and if I may, we look forward to coming to the board, as David mentioned, on November 14th. I appreciate especially your concerns regarding transparency, Commissioner, as well did the class council, who made the requirement that we have an access and construction database to show not only all the work we completed, but all the upcoming work. So if you go to our website, yourselves or the public, you're able to see that, all the projects, lay it out, filter by date, last fiscal year, see photos, see information on the completion date. And we're, as authorized by the board about a year ago, revamping that further to address city concerns as well as class council concerns. And we're going to be rolling out by the end of this calendar year that new website that has even more transparency, ability to pick a neighborhood and lasso all projects, print out a table. We're coming to the board on November 14th to show off the current system and capabilities, talk about some of the new features, and get feedback from yourselves as well as the public so we can ensure that transparency. So I appreciate that. We look forward to continue to work with you on that. And thank you, President. We'll continue our coordination, responsive coordination with SEIU, and appreciate your time today.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Knight, I believe that concludes. But before we conclude, thank you both for coming out today. I do want to introduce, Amelia, do you want to introduce your new colleague to the board? We have a new board liaison from the Bureau of Engineering. Amelia told me she doesn't want to be our liaison anymore, so she wants to leave. So if you want to come up really quick, I'm just joking for the members of the public.
Hello, this is Roman. He's our new board liaison.
Please introduce yourself first.
Oh, yes. My name is Amelia Sarkisian. I'm the current council and board liaison. And now we have a new helper in the liaison's office, Roman. He is a full civil, so he has a PE. And he's going to be taking over the board responsibilities for a while.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Roman Gutierrez. I'll be the new liaison, and we'll be hopefully keeping Amelia on board as long as possible so I can get up to speed and be able to assist you all with coordination between the Bureau of Engineering and yourselves. So thank you for having me.
All right, thank you and welcome aboard. With that, Mr. Knight, I believe that concludes our item for the special agenda.
Yes, it does, President King.
All right, the meeting is now adjourned at 12:29 p.m.